Hi, this is Kerry with the monthly Vedic astrology forecast for October 2023. First, let's have a summary from all 9 planets. The Sun finishes his annual trip through Virgo on October 17th, when he moves into Libra for a month, exiting to Scorpio on November 16th. The big news for the Sun this month is eclipse related. We will experience a solar eclipse on October 14th, which will be visible in parts of South, Central, and North America. This eclipse of the Sun is an annular eclipse, which is the kind that looks like a dark disk, which is the Moon, with a fiery ring around it, which is the Sun. In this moment of temporary darkness in broad daylight, analyze your internal data. This is the final eclipse event before the giant karmic stirring stick clicks into a new chapter. Time to honor what's been assimilated and settle into the next set of goals. The Sun and Moon are dancing with the shadows this month. After a powerful full moon in Pisces on September 29th, the moon wanes, joining the Sun for the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo, mentioned above, on October 14th. Eclipses occur in pairs. After the solar eclipse, the moon begins to wax, becoming full in the sign of Aries on October 28th. This brings us a partial lunar eclipse with a notable face-off of strong planets in the Aries-Libra axis. With 2 eclipses in October, be open to what is disruptive, uncomfortable, or pushing at you from the obscure shadows. It may take some unconventional perspective to help transition into new situations. Mars moves through Venus's air sign, Libra, from October 3rd through November 15th. With Mars's main focus being power and drive, this energy blazes into the social environment of Libra, which has a liminal feel due to the south node of the moon, Ketu, leaving Libra for Virgo in November. Think of Mars helping to surmount what could have been a persistent blockage during the past 1.5 years. Whether business, art, or relationship-oriented, we could push past barriers in October that open the gates to new connections, ideas, and ventures. Mercury. After returning to direct motion in mid-September, the versatile and skillful Mercury picks up speed and begins to glide through the zodiac. From October 1st through the 18th, Mercury will be well placed in his own sign of Virgo, finally free of the many heavy vibes coming from the outer planets into Leo, where he spent all of August and September. This could have felt like trying to execute plans amidst a chorus of chaos, pressure, and glowing hope. From October 18th through November 6th, speedy Mercury continues his cruise, following the Sun into Libra, the current eclipse zone. The cheerful and analytical Mercury will be ready to get down to business during all of October and into November. Jupiter. Jupiter is in the middle of his Aries transit that stretches from April 2023 through April of 2024. This is generally considered beneficial for the fire signs, which Jupiter influences from his current position. It's complicated, though. This will be the final month that Jupiter's clarity is contending with the smoky effects of Rahu, as Rahu will move in November. Hang in there. Also, we have both Jupiter and Saturn in retrograde motion, which can cause us to feel like we're going way too fast and way too slow all at once. Patience and positivity, swirled with some detachment, are your friends. Venus is acting as the caboose of the inner planets, trailing behind the Sun, which makes for quite a spectacle in the eastern sky for early morning risers. Morning star Venus will be shifting from the stars of Cancer to the stars of Leo for October, transiting the Sun's fire sign from October 1st through November 2nd. Leo is the territory of individual power and expression, where me becomes a bit more prominent than we. With Venus, the champion of social responsibility, in Leo, receiving the aspects of egalitarian Saturn and the mixed messaging of Jupiter and Rahu, we could be faced with opportunities to balance our social lives, our self-care, and our expectations about how we weave others into our lives. Saturn. Through October, Saturn's risk aversity may be somewhat relaxed, which could help push projects forward. Keep an eye on the bottom line, but it may be time to push the envelope. Saturn remains in retrograde motion through November 4th, which could account for the sometimes fast, sometimes slow progress you have been making. Don't rush through the foundational details. You'll be happy in the long run that you started correctly, though it may feel painstaking at the moment. Try to revive ideas that were passed by for practical reasons earlier in your process. The time may be here for old creative thoughts to make a current stand. Rahu's unpredictable play, fueled by strong desire for something, has been focused in the sign of Aries since April 2022. Due to the power of Rahu's gaze, his tricky energy has also landed in the other fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius. And as always, he looks straight across from his position, so Libra has also been in upheaval during the past year and a half. Rahu's pulsating presence will be shifting signs in tandem with his counterpart Ketu starting in late October. This shift will be felt during November. That means October could be dramatic. Rahu and Ketu are fully activated into eclipse mode. Rahu is associated with the lunar eclipse of October 28th. Look to an intense play of light and shadow at month's end that may reveal positive guidance layered with crusted attachments that are begging to be removed. Ketu. The hefty energy of Ketu moves in tandem with the ingenious thought of Rahu, beginning to vacate Venus's air sign Libra beginning in late October. This marks the beginning of the next chapter of nodal axis influence, with the next 1.5 years showing Ketu in Virgo, while Rahu occupies Pisces from November 2023 through May 2025. In the meantime, the obstructive abilities of Ketu are strongly shown in the annular solar eclipse of October 14th. This is the type of solar eclipse that appears as a shadow, Ketu and the moon in this case, traced by a fiery ring, which is the sun. Ketu is really the shadow that the Earth casts, which just aligns during the eclipse process. Is this the moment that you find out that the thing that has been standing in your way all this time is you? For an in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please continue to listen to the full planetary forecast. Mercury transits Virgo from October 1st through the 18th. At the time of this writing, current events show the U.S. government on the brink of shutdown, which would go into effect at midnight of October 1st. Already scheduled has been an interesting event in which the great friends Mercury and Venus will each be stepping into a new sign nearly simultaneously on the morning of October 1st. Update: the U.S. figured out how to keep the government open just before Mercury and Venus changed signs on October 1st. After a rather long stint in Leo, the sun sign that is all about establishing individual stability, Mercury begins a run into his own earth sign of Virgo, pushing up his sleeves and getting ready to hammer out the details. This will be a quick but effective transit, as Mercury pushes on to Libra October 18th. Mercury joins the fiery pair of Sun and Mars in Virgo, with Mars moving quickly through the border into Libra on October 3rd. Mercury will be rushing toward the Sun, quickly entering into the state of astrological combustion that occurs when any planet comes within close range of the Sun, observationally speaking. The idea is that it's difficult for that combust planet to express or push their agenda due to the brilliant power of the Sun drowning out the influence of the combust planet. That said, of any of the planets, Mercury is most often combust due to being the first planet out from the Sun. Perhaps Mercury has something to teach in the sense of how he manages trying to get the message through despite excessive amounts of interference. During this first portion of October, tap into the agility, flexibility, enthusiasm, and attention to detail that a strong Mercury offers, no matter what the environment or circumstances supply. Venus transits Leo, October 1st through November 2nd. Shortly after Mercury transitions out of Leo and into Virgo, Venus follows up with her own dance move, sliding through the Gandanta between Cancer and Leo on October 1st. Similar to Mercury having just managed a long stint in Leo, Venus has spent a fair amount of time in Cancer since the summer, due to a retrograde phase. You may have noticed a fabulous shining being that rises before the sun these days. That's Venus. This will actually be a return to Leo for Venus, who dipped into the sun's territory briefly between July 7th and August 7th, as she initiated the retrograde period that shifted Venus from evening star appearance to morning star appearance. While the sun is distracted by combusting Mercury, Venus is moving into his territory with all political and social skills honed and sharp. During the month of October, as the dramatic events like eclipses and nodal axis moving unfold, Venus moves through Leo, absorbing the powerful aspects of difficult planets such as Saturn, Rahu, and retrograde Jupiter, looking like Wonder Woman. This could be a great month to practice deflecting negativity, while at the same time not taking any of it personally. Another support that Venus gives this month is through the opposition to Saturn, also currently retrograde and strongly placed in his own sign. This almost looks like a social revolution designed to rebalance power dynamics in favor of the usually powerless or marginalized. Lessons could be strongly pushing the reality that what is bad for one is usually bad for others, and conversely, when the collective succeeds, all succeed. Mars transits Libra from October 3rd through November 15th. Mars departs Mercury's Earth sign, Virgo, on October 3rd, plunging him into the sky space that currently holds Ketu, the south node of the moon. Ketu has occupied Libra since April of 2022, and this will be the first time Mars has joined Ketu while in Libra. Mars and Ketu's last interaction came in January of 2022 while in Scorpio, the enigmatic environment that they co-rule. Mars and Ketu, as co-rulers of Scorpio, have some similarities, such as both being fiery in nature, as well as being associated with strength and power. Ketu is depicted as a headless body, while Mars rules the head in the body. Together, these two planets can create an aware and capable combination of logic and intuition. Mars and Ketu most strongly conjoin during the first couple weeks of October, which could manifest as a deeply transformative time. Both of the eclipse events in October will be influenced by Mars's presence in Libra, adding in a measure of fire, passion, and courage that could be welcome spice during a time of adjustment. There will be a new moon in Virgo, Chitra Nakshatra, on October 14th, which is also resulting in an annular solar eclipse. As the moon moves in to join the sun at 27 degrees Virgo, an annular solar eclipse path will trace across the Americas during the day of Saturday, October 14th. The sun and moon will join in the nakshatra of Chitra, ruled by the planet Mars and by the deity Tvashtar, the architect of the universe. Chitra is the sky space that spans between the signs of Virgo and Libra, associated with the magic of artistic building. The eclipsing entity for the sun and moon is Ketu, also moving through Chitra and on the verge of shifting from Libra into Virgo for the next 1.5 years. The energy of eclipse can vary based on the location, associated planets, and other intricate factors. At the base, eclipses are a temporary shadowing of the expected light, which can result in an ominous darkness that can reveal and expose the fears and turmoil caused by the removal of comforting, empowering forces of light that we normally associate with the kingly sun and the queenly moon. Solar eclipses can cause a momentary lapse of confidence, causing doubt that can delay or destroy a chosen path. The good news is that sometimes these sudden retreats can accidentally cause an intervention that turns out to improve and shed new light upon an already decided upon course of action. One way to approach this uncomfortable moment would be to understand the nature of Virgo, Libra, and Chitra, the nakshatra that bridges the two. Let's also keep in mind the pending shift of the nodal axis, moving attention from the Aries-Libra axis to the Pisces-Virgo axis. Since this is the sun's last few days in Virgo for the year, just at the time the nodes are preparing to move, we may be wise to analyze what's ready to move out of focus in favor of new horizons. The analytical, precise demands of Mercury and Virgo may need to give way to some of the idealistic social risks of love-oriented Venus. The sun transits Libra from October 17th through November 16th. The sun moves through the sign of Libra from October 17th through November 16th, which sounds simple, but turns out to be somewhat dramatic. Libra is the sign of debilitation for the sun, and this annual transit is spiced up by the eclipse axis making its final marks on the opposite signs Aries and Libra. While the sun may tend to struggle in Libra, meaning that the agenda of self-concern that the sun represents meets some resistance in Venus's idealistic sign of social responsibility. For the remainder of October, there is a fix in place, with Venus, ruler of Libra, currently placed in Leo, the sign of the sun. This improves conditions for each Venus and the sun, elevating them from simply transiting through signs that are uncomfortable to shining brightly and functioning optimally. This exchange of signs between Venus and Sun in the latter half of October is supportive of collaborative creative projects that allow individual expression to blend and harmonize with the expression of others. This could also manifest as exploration of how relationships can thrive with the right blend of togetherness and solo cruising. Mercury transits Libra from October 18th through November 6th. Continuing his run through friendly territory, Mercury leaps into Libra on October 18th, in the midst of the eclipse energy and the pending change of nodal axis. Who better to manage the chaos, offering fine-tuning adjustments and cheerfully spreading the word about how to find help? Mercury neutralizes the current intensity coming into Libra with his presence. With both fiery Mars and Ketu receiving the confusing compound aspect of Rahu and Jupiter in Aries, we could be feeling some passion about how to advance, moving toward goals and attaining outcomes. While Mercury is great with analysis and data mining, this could be a bit much for making decisions with a clear head. The temptation to charge forward and get things done will loom large. It may be wise to consciously step back to consider the details and the long-term effects of whatever brick you may be laying at the moment. In the midst of the drama and chaos, keep Mercury's sensors clear, because the information we pick up during the latter half of October will help us make decisions about what to fix and what to toss in the near future. We have a full moon in Aries, Ashwini Nakshatra, on October 28th, which results in a partial lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse at the full Aries moon of October 28th acts as a spooky prelude to All Hallows Eve, which this year also marks the movement of the nodal axis across signs. The Sun will occupy his debilitation sign of Libra, but in added strength due to an exchange of signs with Libra's ruler, Venus, who is in Leo for all of October. With the recent solar eclipse and Venus's strong influence on the Sun at this time, we are closing our eyes momentarily to our individual needs in order to feel into the fabric of community and the strength that comes through voluntary sacrifices for the benefit of all. The moon becomes full at 11 degrees Aries, which also defines the star space known as Ashwini, the first nakshatra ruled by the twin healers and horsemen known as the Ashwin Kumars. Also placed in Aries and flanking the moon will be the eclipse inflicting Rahu, receding into the borderland between Aries and Pisces, and causing a partial shadow on the otherwise bright moon. The Sun, opposite in Libra, will be placed in the nakshatra Swati, ruled by Rahu, giving the ingenious shadow maker Rahu the upper hand in this full moon eclipse. Joining the Sun and Ketu are Mars and Mercury, pushing a great amount of energy into this eclipse event. There will be 7 of 9 planets occupying this opposition. Jupiter, Moon, and Rahu in Aries, opposite Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Ketu in Libra. Also interesting is that the remaining 2 planets are also participating in opposition with each other, with retrograde Saturn in Aquarius opposite Venus in Leo. The final few days of October, we could be left feeling like, on some level, a stalemate is occurring that will leave an obvious mark on the future. The nodal axis moves to Pisces and Virgo starting on October 31st. The nodal axis is formed by the always opposite 8th and 9th planets, Rahu, the north node of the moon, and Ketu, the south node of the moon. These mostly invisible points only show when they line up with the sun and moon, causing the casting of shadows and the temporary loss of light that we call eclipses. In Jyotish, Vedic astrology, these shadow planets play an important role, with Rahu revealing the pull of irresistible desire in our lives, and Ketu symbolizing the stubborn seat of the spirit that likes to resist the pull of earthly delights in favor of soul-level liberation. In reality, the nodal axis reflects the axis of the earth itself, which does tend to wobble, also causing the projection of itself, the nodal axis, to also wobble. We therefore have the actual position of the node to consider, which we call the true node calculation. That said, the overall trajectory of the nodal axis is in reverse motion to the normal path of the observable planets through sky space. We have another calculation for the nodal axis called mean node, which averages the position of the axis so that it always appears retrograde. These two calculations of the nodal axis, mean and true, will result in two different dates on which we are observing the axis to change signs. On October 31st, we are watching the smoothed out average calculation of mean node shifting, so that Rahu moves from the early degrees of Aries to the late degrees of Pisces, while simultaneously Ketu moves from the early degrees of Libra to the late degrees of Virgo. The true node calculation shift will come almost a month later on November 29th. This implies that due to the unstable and wobbly nature of life here on Earth, we could feel this shift in our own lives and horoscopes starting in late October all the way through November. Rather than thinking, oh great, nothing is going to be settled through November, you could turn it around and think, oh great, nothing is settled yet. This gives me a chance to make adjustments or take advantage of surprise opportunities. Hold on, let me wax my surfboard in preparation. After an eclipse pair punctuates the transit of Rahu in Aries and Ketu in Libra, we may have discovered new information or seen details in a different contrast that helps us to choose our path forward, which may look different now, even from a month ago. Overall, October may be a good stretch to make those final cuts, say goodbye to what has been obstructive, and use any new data to inform adjustments and course corrections. It may not be easy, but in the end, could feel like a few steps closer to freedom. To all who celebrate, I wish you joyous celebrations of Navaratri and Dasai. Thank you for listening.